think about a habit you have, something you do pretty regularly. Maybe, I don't know, the route you always take to work.
Or even just how you make your coffee in the morning.
Exactly. Have you ever just stopped and asked, wait, why do I do it this way? Where did it start?
It's a really good question because, well, so much of what we do personally and socially just becomes automatic.
We just sort of inherit these things, don't we, without really digging into the
We
origins.
often do, yeah.
And that's pretty much what we're getting into in this deep dive. We stumbled upon this really fascinating little story. It seems simple on the surface.
About a mendicant, right? And his followers.
Yes. Describes this daily morning thing they do, this ritual, and the group just, mirrors their leader, no questions asked.
Until someone from outside the group shows up.
Right. And asks this incredibly simple but actually quite profound question.
And the insight, really, is that maybe a lot of the things we do without thinking started for, well, pretty mundane reasons.
And they just stick around because nobody ever stopped to ask why. This story, we think, kind of unlocks how traditions get going and why they persist.
So our goal here, really, is to maybe get you thinking, to turn that same kind of questioning look onto the traditions in your own life.
To take a second and ask, what's really underneath the things you do, the things you see people doing?
Okay, so let's set the scene. You've got the first light of day.
Yeah, that sort of pre-dawn glow.
And in this light, there's a mendicant. Looks like a wise figure, maybe?
Holding his begging bowl up, facing the sun as it comes up.
And around him, his junior followers.
And they're doing the exact same thing, copying his pose, and it looks like, deep respect, reverence.
Quite a picture, isn't it? This daily act repeated seems so full of meaning.
The visual is definitely powerful, and they're not just watching.
No, they're doing it, embodying the action. They must be assuming it's something, well, deeply spiritual.
Some kind of connection to the sun, or the divine, maybe?
Probably. Then, out of the blue, an outsider appears.
Someone not in the group, just observing.
And they ask what seems like the most obvious thing.
But it cuts right through, doesn't it? Why do you do this?
Such a simple question. You'd think the answer would be right there, something equally deep.
But the ritual itself, the performance of it, often hides the why,
Absolutely. The focus is all on the act of raising the bowl. The original reason just sort of fades.
And the mendicant's actual answer, it's kind of brilliant in its simplicity.
Not some profound mystical reason.
Not at all. He wasn't like worshiping the sun or anything. He was just using the good morning light.
To check his bowl.
Yeah. To inspect his cracked begging bowl to see if it needed fixing.
Wow. Talk about a disconnect between perception and reality.
Right. What looks so spiritual was just practical maintenance.
And what's fascinating there is how easily that kind of practical thing can get layered with importance.
Especially in a group dynamic with a leader figure.
The junior followers, they probably spun a whole narrative of devotion around it.
When really it was just about checking for cracks.
And this, the story suggests, is often how traditions start, isn't it?
Seems like it. The followers copy what they see. They assume there's a deep purpose.
But over time, that original reason, the practical bit, checking the bowl, it gets lost.
Fades away completely sometimes.
And what's left is just the action itself. Raising the bowl at dawn.
It becomes, like the source says, a hollow shell of the act.
Exactly. The why just matters less and less. Maybe it's forgotten entirely.
And the practice keeps going just because, well, everyone else is doing it.
Imitation, social reinforcement. It's not about the bowl anymore. It's just what we do at dawn.
Conformity and repetition just cement it in place as tradition.
It really makes you pause and think, though. This isn't just about some ancient religious thing.
No, the source definitely broadens it out. It talks about all kinds of rituals, customs, and societal norms.
The stuff we encounter every single day.
And you have to ask, how many of those things have we really examined, you or I? What was the original point?
That's a huge question for all of us, I think. How many ingrained habits, societal rules, have we actually questioned
We just inherit them, don't we? And run with them.
without ever really thinking about why they started?
Right. And these things get so deeply entrenched, as the source puts it.
So much so that even thinking about questioning them can feel weird.
Like you're rocking the boat or challenging something fundamental.
It often just feels easier to go along. There's a real comfort in fitting in.
Oh, absolutely. Conformity feels safe, predictable.
And questioning things, especially stuff everyone accepts, can feel really disruptive.
Plus, there's often social pressure, right? Maybe subtle, maybe not so subtle.
Definitely. Pressure to keep things as they are, maintain the status quo.
But the source also points out the downsides, the potential problems with just blindly following along.
Huge downsides.
Yeah.
Traditions, even ones that started for a good reason, can definitely outlive their usefulness.
They can even become harmful, can't they?
Absolutely. When that original why is gone, traditions can actually block progress. Well, they can stop innovation, discourage new ways of thinking or doing things because,
That's the way we've always done it.
exactly. And they can keep outdated beliefs alive just through sheer inertia.
And if you don't know why something started, how can you possibly adapt it or decide if it's time to let it go?
It's incredibly difficult. Like
Yeah.
trying to fix a machine with no manual, no understanding of how it's supposed to work.
And that fear you mentioned, the social pressure.
Yeah, the fear of being seen as different, maybe even being ostracized, that plays a massive role in keeping these cycles going.
It discourages people from asking those basic why questions in the first place.
Which brings us back to that cracked bowl. It's more than just a plot point, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's such a powerful symbol.
What looks so profound, so spiritual.
Had this incredibly simple, practical root.
That contrast is key
Yeah.
between the perceived depth and the mundane reality sometimes.
It's like a constant reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
And the stories we tell ourselves about why we do things might just be assumptions, not the actual history.
So the big takeaway seems to be the need to cultivate this spirit of inquiry.
To be willing to ask why, even if it feels awkward, even if you think you should already know.
It's about moving beyond just like blind faith or acceptance.
Towards critical thinking, applying that questioning mind not just to big societal things, but everyday stuff too.
Our own little rituals, the norms in our communities.
And the source says this takes courage.
Yeah, a willingness to potentially challenge the established order.
It's not about just being difficult, is it?
No, not at all. It's about a genuine wish to understand why we do what we do, the foundation of our actions.
It's that shift from just passive acceptance, going through the motions,
Do active engagement, becoming thoughtful participants.
understanding the purpose, the value, or maybe lack thereof in the practices we keep.
And ultimately, if we understand those roots, then we can decide if they still make sense.
If they still hold real value for us now,
And make sure they stay meaningful rather than just, habits we can't shake.
that sunlight in the story, it started just showing a crack in a bowl.
But it ends up illuminating something much bigger about tradition itself.
It really represents that light of inquiry, doesn't it? The thing that can reveal the often hidden, maybe surprisingly simple, origins of rituals we just take for granted.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the core idea from that little story about the mendicant is really this. The beginnings of so many things we do, the traditions we follow almost on autopilot.
They might be way simpler, maybe even more accidental than we tend to think.
Which leaves you with a final thought to chew on.
What sunlight of inquiry can you shine on the traditions in your own life?
What things that seem really significant, either in your routine or in the culture around you, might actually have surprisingly practical or maybe long forgotten roots?
Yeah, maybe take some time to really ponder the why behind the what you do every day.